So hi everyone, a very warm welcome to today's exclusive webinar on how to embed sustainability into the DNA of your business. For those of you who have not heard of the Institute of Sustainability Studies before, we're a sustainability training organisation that empowers businesses to build capability across their entire operations and not just within sustainability teams. So that's very relevant for today's webinar that Sarah will be conducting. So we'll be explaining in the next 40 minutes, essentially how companies can move from sustainability efforts being siloed into cross-team integration. And Sarah will be presenting today. She's the founder of Earthology and a leading consultant on climate-conscious business transformation. Sarah has a wealth of experience supporting companies on their B Corp journeys and helping them to basically embed sustainability into culture, governance, and daily decision-making. It's my pleasure to hand it over to Sarah.
Embedding sustainability into the DNA of your business is really where it's at. So if you have already set targets, this is often where I find that I meet my clients, right? That they may have started their journey, but what they're finding is that they can't advance their projects because sustainability is still not part of everything that they do. And so therefore it's still very much in a silo on the side, like a nice to have, we'll do it when CSRD becomes official and important. And right now it's just like in the background, and we'll do it if we have to. So what we're going to talk about today is talking about those silos and trying to bring it to synergy. And also we're going to be talking about how we can operate that language of buy-in. The operational engine is procurement, supply chain, budgets. Decentralizing ownership is about trying to disseminate out to sustainability to really get some champions on board to help you with your mission, and then creating that default culture. So, silos to synergy. Where we're at the moment, I feel like most people are, it's you on your sustainability island, looking back at the mainland and going, I want to be where they are. I want to be having the sustainability KPIs with the main KPIs. I want to be seeing how I can get sustainability part of everything that we do, as opposed to me over here in my little island and not being able to make any change or to get any projects moving forward. So we have to shift it from that sustainability project mindset to making it cross-functional. So, one of the first things we have to do is think about how that relates to other people and what their missions and visions are and the overall strategy of the company. So the goal is to align those environmental targets with core commercial objectives for long-term resilience, right? We don't want this to be the current CEO's tenure, and then when he or she is gone in a couple of years' time, that actually we find it's fallen off the agenda again. And literally the call I was just on, it's like the CEO might be bought in, but the leadership team are not, or the other way around, right? The leadership team are fully on board, but the CEO is not. And so therefore, it's very difficult to initiate change from the bottom up, because you kind of need to do both, really. And we can see that in society, right? Everyone's like, what does it matter if I don't drive an electric car, or all these things? And we see other people are powerless or feel like they have no agency. And we want to shift that narrative that actually everybody does have agency. And so the first thing you need to be doing is looking at who else are your champions, who shares your values, and can you co-create with them to create this kind of like moving from sustainability as a silo to synergy across the business. And you might find that this is not something that you can get from any one particular department. You might find that marketing is really aligned with you, because actually they want to be able to sell the sustainability story. It's really good for employee retention, and it's also good for talent attraction. So it might be that actually people are looking at how they can have more sustainability in what they do, but they're not outwardly talking about it. And so sometimes it means moving from your island into those other areas of the operation and just go listen to what their problems are, because that's the first part of moving this forward. So, as Steve Jobs said, right, great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And this leads me back to, it's like so many people are like, oh, Coke are the problem because of all of the plastic bottles, or, Unilever's the problem because of, all the PFAS or whatever. And they blame an institution or a company. They don't really remember that in those companies are people who are in their jobs, everyday jobs, just, they're not necessarily thinking about sustainability. That's not their fault, right? They don't have the background that we do have in sustainability. But really, if we want to drive change, it's a hearts and minds situation. And so thinking about where your team is that you haven't yet discovered is kind of the key for this. So we need to talk the language of buy-in, right? How do we get buy-in for the projects? Everybody has an agenda when they come to work every day. So we need to be thinking about what those different agendas are and how we can help those people, because it's reciprocal. When we help people, they're more likely to help us. So we talked about identifying allies. So for most people, what's in it for me, right? There's like, I'd like to help you, but really, what's in it for me? How is this going to help me move forward, move up the ranks, move to the new role I want, get the buy-in, get the visibility from the CEO or whatever it is. Like, it's looking at those other department heads and thinking about it from the mainland perspective, right? Where are they at? What targets do they have? And this is not something you can do, right? Like in the next week. It has to be a plan that you're thinking about throughout the year. And a bit like Atomic Habits, right? James Clear. It's like you have to approach one thing at a time. You can't change everybody all at once. And so thinking about what you can do with bringing people on board, right? Like, how can you move that person? What's in it for them? What's in it for them if you're going to bring sustainability to the agenda? What's in it for marketing if actually they can sell the company better? In HR, if they can talk to employees better about sustainability. Now, we're perceiving that these are the issues that they have. So absolutely, the point is to go and talk to these people, go and arrange lunch, coffee, whatever it is, and just listen. Very hard when you have the solutions and you want to impose them. I know it happens to me all the time with B Corp and carbon literacy. People just want to, they want the solution. But really, we need to understand what their pain points are in the very first place so that we can really lean into that. And something that people don't really realize is that the most asked question about the climate crisis is, what can I do? So we presume, because sustainability is not part of the main strategy or the main agenda, that people don't really care. But actually, when it comes down to it, most of the time, you will find that somebody does care about something environmental, broad spectrum, along the way. So let's just take, I don't know, the CEO who really likes going to rugby. And sometimes the rugby is cancelled because of the weather, or sometimes there's an impact in terms of sporting events. You have to think about maybe other areas outside of work, outside of sustainability even. Like, we can see from a sustainability lens that these things are driven by the climate, by what's happening. We all know this, but actually we need to bring it into everybody's everyday lives. And ultimately, even if it's just changing the Nutella at home, right? Like, no more palm oil. We've heard palm oil's really bad. Whatever it is, sometimes it's just that little hook or that little piece. You suddenly find out what that little story-shaped hole is that you can like really get in. You could be like, right, this person's really keen on sustainable food production, or this person's really keen on recycling. right? A lot of people moan about recycling. Sometimes they're like, I do recycling perfectly, you know? So it's like, okay, where is that little piece where I can go in and really make my story resonate with them? So operational engines, the budgets and the procurement departments. And if you're in one of those, you're going to know what it's like in terms of trying to bring people along. So if you are trying to bring your supply chain on board, you'll know it's a bit like pulling teeth, right? Like, it's frustrating. It's, you can't just do the slam door approach. You can't just rip off the Band-Aid because no one's listening. They've got too many other priorities, and sustainability and giving you their scope 1 and 2 is not on their priority list, right? Like, it's like, okay, the shipment got stuck in the Suez, or, like, it's not like, or the label was the wrong shade of green, or whatever it is. They are very busy day to day. And the thoughts of you giving them some extra work when they haven't even heard of what scopes of emissions are, that's what we're finding with a lot of people delving into the supply chain, is really the crux of the matter. So it's like, okay, how do we bring them along, basically? So sustainable procurement, if such a thing exists, it's about thinking about what the total impact cost is. And so we have, with impending CSRD, when it does come into force, we have double materiality. And if you're already a B Corp, you are already thinking about this, because you have, under the community section, you have supply chain. And it's all about what's happening in the supply chain. It's all about not just the carbon footprint of you and your building and those kind of things. It's like your products and the impact. And let's say it's aerial washing powder, right? It's like, okay, we're going to wash at 30 degrees because that's going to bring down our climate impact. Never mind the fact that they put in all the whitening and all that kind of stuff, whatever it might be. It's like they have decided that, the impact for them is in how we wash our clothes. How we use their product is where the bigger impact is. Because if we're washing at 60, 90, whatever, that's a lot of energy use, that's a lot of water use. Whereas if we're washing at lower temperatures, less impact. So we have to think about, how can we look at this internally? So Microsoft would be a good example of this. They put in, internal carbon pricing, and it really shifted the mindset of people in terms of the things that they were looking to buy, the things that they were looking to do within their other departments, and the total impact costs. Now, I'm not saying we're all able to do that and to put in internal carbon pricing. Sometimes it works. I know some professional services firms who have tried to put it in. There's a lot of backlash. It didn't really work. But again, I think it's like, don't assume because something didn't work the first time that either you should not try again or try something slightly different. And looking at the overall impact costs, if you like. So on a call yesterday, we were looking at this for a particular client who is in the food industry. And we were thinking, okay, these are a couple of projects that we've got coming up. Where should we focus our efforts? Should we focus on circularity? Should we focus on total carbon emissions of the product at the end? And for sure, it's a difficult one to know where you should put your time and energy. Both require engaging the supply chain. And if you're going to embed this across your organization, you're going to have to put it in procurement, supply chain, finance, operations, marketing, across the board. So you're going to have to think about which department you're going to start with first, because trying to do it all at once does often mean that it all falls asunder. Because often, if you're just a team of one, then you have to really think about your own ability, capability, time, etc. So sometimes when you win one team over first, it's easier to move on to the next one. And I say think like a marketeer, because we really need to think about how we are selling this to our other teams and departments. Goes back to what's in it for me, but it's like, how have I packaged the change that I want to push through, or the thing that I want to achieve? What's in it for them? How is this going to make it better? And granted, right, like as sustainability people, we're always thinking about, the budgets, the risk impact, like how do we sell it to the CEO, all of those things. But I think the piece that we sometimes miss is selling it to the individual, to that person who is currently in charge of that budget, that team, that department. We always think about it as sort of like the generic issue that it might be for the CEO. Maybe we don't think about it from what's personally in it for them. So think a little bit more like a marketing person. Think about how they're selling electric cars, right? You're selling a lifestyle, you're selling a legacy, you're really reaching into like what it is that connects with them. And you're almost coaching them on this journey of the thing that you think is going to make the biggest difference. So if you talk to a person in a language they understand, that goes to their head. If you talk to them in their language, that goes to their heart. And I think this quote from Nelson Mandela really resonated with me because I feel, I don't know if anyone's seen this, but Hannah Cox, right? She is in India. She is running the length of the inland customs line. She's trying to raise $1 million for charity, right? And she's trying to speak to quite a number of different people. And some people are championing it, some people are putting it on social media, but it hasn't quite grabbed the media attention like I thought it would, right? Because it speaks to my heart and what I would do. Not sure that I would necessarily put on a pair of trainers and try to run 100 marathons in 100 days across India with nothing but a van. I think she's completely crazy. But also, that's what we need. We need people who are prepared to step up and do these things for the planet. So that really resonated with me, and it really spoke to my heart. So I was one of the first people to say, right, I'm going to donate some money because it really resonated with me. So again, it just like comes back to that whole thing about marketing and sales, like what's really going to resonate with the person. So next is decentralizing ownership. So this is where we need to be thinking, okay, I'm one person or one person in a department, if you're lucky, of sustainability. And I'm thinking how I can do more with less people, more with less budget, more with less time. How do I do more with less? And the only way I feel we're going to do that is by decentralizing things and essentially passing the sustainability baton to other people. So in order to do that, we need to think about how, once we've made our allies, how do we co-create solutions and ideas that the other people own, that they can then push on to the people that they work very well with? And this is why we're always saying that if you have a green team, it's a really good idea to have somebody represented from each department, because then if you're trying to push something through, someone might be like, oh no, that's a great idea, but actually, I don't know, deliveries come on a Tuesday, and actually, trying to cut off the cutoff time or make the van come only once a week won't work for us because X, right? It's like, if you're thinking about something that you want to implement, it's definitely best to co-create from the beginning. And the great thing about sustainability is it goes across all departments like no other function I know, right? It's a really great way to bring everybody together across the company, because for most people in their hearts, right, like sustainability is something that people will come to and want to do something. And it could be that actually one person wants to plant trees. Could be that somebody else wants to make a pollinator garden. It could be that somebody else wants to do better recycling. Or it could be that somebody else has seen an offcut in the factory or something that they're like, this is crazy waste. We could do something with this. but then they just dismiss it. It's not to do with me. That's the sustainability team. I'm nothing to do with them, right? So we need to reach out to those departments and think, how can we co-create with them so that they take ownership of it and it becomes part of everything that they do? Now, if you're B Corp certified, you'll know that actually a big part of this is you put sustainability into the job descriptions. You put it into potentially, it's not every company does this, right? That's B Corp certified, but like on the list of things that you can do, it's also like you can bonus people on sustainability. So a bonus that they get at the end of the year, a little piece of that might be like, what did you do this year in terms of a sustainability project? Did you get involved with the beach cleans? Did you get involved with the projects that the sustainability team were running? Have you thought of an idea that would make a difference in terms of the environmental status of the building or whatever it might be? Something like that. So they link it to bonuses, and that is when you start to see real change, because when people realize that it's part of their remuneration, they're going to do more about it, and it makes people more responsible. It's when it's in job descriptions, right? So can you liaise with HR? How could we, if we were to do this in 12 months time, not next week, but if we were to do this in 12 months time, how would it look? How would it look on new contracts? How would it look for the team as a whole? How could we implement that or add it into the 360 reviews? Carbon literacy is used by quite a lot of big corporations as the way that people find out, have they actually done something this year for sustainability, right? Like they go, okay, on carbon literacy, you came up with this idea and it reduced this much emissions. So we're going to give you a really great bonus because we saw that you were achieving in that area. So there are some really easy ways to make it like not too complicated in terms of putting it in. But it's about passing that baton on, because if we don't start to do that, we're still on our island. We're still going, I'm exhausted. I can't do it all. I need help. So it's about building that bridge and passing on the baton ultimately, and incentivizing people. And certainly when you think about behavioral change, right, the main thing that I have learned about behavioral change in relation to sustainability over the last 5 years is that, let's just say during Smarter Travel Week or whatever it is, you want to get more people to walk or cycle to work. And so you offer an electric bike or something like that as a prize. Those things are great at the beginning, but actually what helps move the dial more with sustainability isn't financial incentives. That helps sometimes to get people to the webinar, to get people to come to the event, to get people to come and see me talk at your sustainability week, whatever it is. Sometimes it's like, there's going to be a non-sustainability related prize that's, still environmentally friendly, right? So you're not necessarily offering Ryanair vouchers. You're thinking about what you're going to be able to do as a company, Tony Stroccoloni, whatever it might be, something that incentivizes people to come along. But then once you have them there, it's like, why did you come along? What did you enjoy about today? All of those things mean that you're appreciating that someone's taking the time to turn up, and actually appreciation apparently trumps financial incentives. Now, it doesn't always work, admittedly, but it's when you say, I'm really appreciated that you actually turned up, particularly if it's managers that you don't see very often or whatever that might be. It's like, thanks for coming along today. It was really good that you were here. I'd love to see what else you would want to see, what would make you come to the next event, all of those things. Because people, when they're asked, and this goes back to the co-creating, if they're asked like, actually, I've heard this other company, they did a clothes swap or whatever it might be, I'd be really interested in that. Or I'd be really interested in finding out about how I can make my garden more pollinator friendly, or all of those things. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, we could do something like that. Then you're kind of reaching out to those different groups, because you have to think like a marketeer and you have to segment your market, because you can't speak to everybody, because it just doesn't work, because we as humans are all individual, right? We all have very different mindsets, and you have to kind of have a think about how different people are thinking about certain things. If you want somebody to change their car for a bicycle, you have to find out what's preventing them from doing that. Is it they're terrified of cycling on, in our case, Irish roads, right? Is it that you don't want to cycle when it's absolutely hoofing it down like it is right now? And I'd be one of those people, right? I have my waterproof trousers. Brona and I were talking about that the other day. I don't know which day it was. It was horrendous weather. And I was very lucky that I brought my trousers, because on the way there, it looked like the rain had cleared up. And I thought, just going to put them in. And it was such a good idea. So I do think those are things that you're like, okay, what's the blockers for certain people? You know, you might be thinking, gosh, it's only like they only live 5K from the office. Why wouldn't they? It's quicker, it's easier. You go door to door, there's no parking, there's no stress, do you know? But then a lot of people are like, oh, there's tiny gaps, I'm frightened of the buses, whatever it is, right? It's like, how do we reach out to those people? So have a think about that, because that, I feel, is the key in terms of behavioral change, is like those little nudges that we can get to incentivize people to do the behavior that we'd like them to do. So Charles Darwin, really good quote, this one. In the long history of humankind, those who learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. And if we look at this in terms of Earth's history, and I don't know if anyone has heard of Deep Time Walk, but Deep Time Walk is a 4.6 kilometer walk with 18 Earth stations along the way. And 4.6 kilometers, you think, well, that's not too far. It takes 3 hours or 3.5 hours, because you're stopping along the way to really drill down to Earth's history. And when you do that, you look at things like how amoeba first came about, how the actual ability of life to come about on Earth is absolutely an incredible journey. And I encourage you, wherever you are, to look into Deep Time Walk, because it is a fabulous thing to do. We just started doing it this year, so it's going to be interesting to see. But you really, it takes you on a journey, and you realize that we're all microorganisms. And I'm going off on a tangent, but bear with me. That we are all actually related. So those microorganisms that finally got together to create that original spark of life, it was because they were working together. It wasn't like one little amoeba went off by itself and said, I'm going to create a human, right? Like, it was the conditions, the environment, how they collaborated with people, and they improvised. It was like the first one bumping off the other one. Like, it was, you know, it's so important. And even now, if you think about it, microorganisms are so important to our own mental health, to our bodies. They're how we came about. And so for me, collaborating with other people on these wicked problems, as we call them, is absolutely key for moving forward. So we're getting towards the end, because I don't want to leave you too long today. This is a lot of information to take in. We want to be thinking about creating that default culture. And I could go back to the culture of a Petri dish and talk about how, you know, again, we've got these microorganisms and the default culture in a Petri dish. But it's so true, because when you look at it, that Petri dish and the organisms that's growing in it, it responds to the world around it. And that's what we're doing right now. We're responding, right, to everything. We're reacting. But maybe we think about responding in a different way as opposed to reacting. Everyone's reacting to, you know, the situation that we're in and what's going on, the geopolitical. It changes every day, right? We do not know what is going to happen tomorrow. But what we do know is we can control the controllables, and that is us. And if we want to create that culture in our little Petri dish, then we have to think about it a little bit differently. So if you would like to get more change across the organization, you really want to embed sustainability, you have to give people the why behind the what. So I'm using carbon literacy as a slightly biased example, but it really does help. I think any sustainability training across the organization is like, it's an absolute no-brainer. And if you've done any of the Institute for Sustainability courses, like, they really have thought about this from a business point of view, right? This is not just an academic, go learn about the Keeling curve, right? Go and learn why the Keeling curve is not straight line, why it goes up and down, all of those things. Like, it's about learning how this is going to make a difference across your organization. So giving everyone the why behind the what, you can't expect them to make any changes if they don't really understand the situation in the first place. And granted that training budgets are tricky to come by, so I would definitely look at training in HR, what budgets they've got. Is it a budget under health and well-being, right? Because actually, certainly doing a course can help your well-being. If you're like stuck and you're like, okay, I want to do more, I want to advance this. Maybe you're not in sustainability yet, but you want to be. And you're thinking, okay, how do I move into this area, right? That's the question I often get. How did you get into this? So my background is HR and horticulture, right? Like, I didn't start as an environmental auditor, as so many people in sustainability did. Like so many other people, I came from a very different background. I came from just seeing it as an opportunity and going, oh, goodness, I need to do something. I don't know what that is. I'm going to meld my two experiences in life so far, and I'm going to bring them to organizations. Granted that I don't do as much as I'd like to with the biodiversity side, but maybe that'll come. So think about how you can give people the why behind the what, like what you're trying to move them in terms of behaviors and how to really engage them. And then making real-time impact of wins. So something that I've seen, like on a basic level, right? So let's say it's the coffee cups. Okay, in Ireland, we use 22,000 disposable coffee cups an hour. An hour, people. I don't even know how that's possible. Anyway, it is. So we want to get more people to bring their keep cup or use their keep cup on the way to the office. The problem is that people are on their way into work and the keep cup that you've given them is in the office. So you're thinking, like, the person's not going to go into the office and then go out to get their coffee with their keep cup. So we need to think back how we can make that work, behavioral change, bringing the, taking the cup home with you so that you have it on the way in, all of those things. But I think for me, the most important thing and some of the most impactful things I've seen are, okay, this week is bring your own cup week, whatever it is. And so at the beginning of the week, you bring all of the cups that you've had, you get the cleaners to put them aside. And then you have a fun half an hour with the green team and you make some sort of sculpture out of the cups. I've seen this done, right? So you make a little sculpture out of all of the coffee cups that have been used in the office for the whole week. And you put that in reception. So that every morning people are coming in, they're like, what the heck have they made out of all those keep cups? And you give them a little bit of information, you send around an email, you say, this is how many keep cups, this is how many disposable cups we used last week. And this week is keep cup week, right? We want to see how much we can get that down. So you're taking a baseline. You're looking at all the keep cups. And then the following week, you make another sculpture out of the reduced, hopefully, amount of keep cups. And you say, this is the sculpture that we made this week. And it's smaller. And people go, oh, what I did make a difference. That sculpture is smaller than that one. Right? It's about, like, just at a very basic level, making people really realize that what they do makes a difference. And then that bottom-up approach to ideas. How are we doing? Oh, good. Okay. I think that what's so undervalued is the old school suggestion box. So when you do things like that are a little bit creative, a little bit fun, a little bit like what are they trying to prove? You'll have people who'll be like, I'm always going to be having my disposable cup. I'm not changing, whatever. Fine. That's absolutely fine. We have to work on the 15 to 20% of people that we can change so that it becomes the norm. So when people have ideas and suggestions, we need other people on the teams, let's say it's a green team, to be more open-minded. So if you think about that sort of like open, like management policy where you let everyone speak and you don't kind of like shout them down and say, Tom will never agree to that, whatever, because such and such. It's like, we have to imagine what if it were possible and how could we work around it? Not, it's never going to happen. And I'm one of those people who's like, so I'm teaching myself right now to also just listen, be mindful, and think how we can and not how we can't. So, last quote, I think. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie, right? Like, honestly, if we want change, we need to go back to culture, go back to HR, ask them for ideas. When we did the last health and safety thing, how did we get that through? How did we get more people to adopt the new health and safety thing, whatever it was? Health and safety takes priority. It's a really good one to get in under the coattails with sustainability. You're making this change. Could we also make this change at the same time? And you don't know that if you're not going to talk to these guys. So it's like, a bit like how to win friends and influence people. You need to be talking to everybody all of the time to see what's happening, what's coming up, and where you can get sustainability into it. So the golden thread of sustainability is woven throughout your organization. You just don't see it right now. And I don't see it a lot of the time either. So integration is the engine behind how you're going to make this work. I couldn't think about how to say it other than get off the island. So apologies for that. But get off the island, get onto the mainland, think about how you can get people to either come to your island or actually what you're going to have to do is go to the mainland. Hand over that baton. Think about the champions that you have. And if you don't have any champions right now, I suggest you go and find some. Because you find those people that speak to your values, that agree with yours. Start with the easy wins, right? Start with the green team that wants to be there. Okay, so it's not cross-functional, whatever. It's the people who actually want to be there and who might want to help. And just because it's your job for sustainability doesn't mean you need to carry it all of the time. And think about how you're going to embed that new culture of sustainability. It's not obvious and easy to everyone like it is in everybody in sustainability. So as sustainability people, we need to learn from all of the other departments. We need to learn to think like finance. We need to learn to think like ops. We need to think like procurement. We need to think like marketing, 100%. And we need to think like sales. So we don't necessarily always have those, I don't think, inbuilt as sustainability people. So go out and have those chats with those people. Lastly, 2 amazing books. Climate Change Coaching, if you haven't heard of Charlie Cox, amazing. I did one of her Green Transition Coaches courses 18 months ago, and it has really changed the way I deal with my narrative in terms of sustainability. And then secondly, scarcity, right? People are always thinking about what they don't have, not what they do. So how can we change that mindset of scarcity from lack to abundance? A little bit woo, but actually it's like we need to be thinking about what we could have, not what we can't.
Thanks, Sarah. That was brilliant. I suppose now we're kind of approaching the time, so if anyone needs to drop off, that's absolutely fine. But we'll kind of get into the Q&A. If anyone has any questions, just looking in the chat here, saw a comment earlier from, 2 comments from Sonia earlier. No I in team, and also internal carbon pricing should be based on a formula all can use. Perhaps keep it simple. So just to share those with you as well, Sarah.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because you can overcomplicate that for sure. And I think it really depends on your organization in terms of internal carbon pricing and definitely to look at what competitors in your area have done. I would say don't reinvent the wheel, because it is a tricky one. And different organizations have gone about it in different ways. So yeah, I would definitely look at the competition for that one before you start to do something from scratch. You're better off looking at maybe what other people have done successfully or otherwise. And that's the great thing about the B Corp community, is most people are open to sharing their ideas, how they've done things, all that kind of stuff. And even if you're not in it, to reach out to a competitor who's B Corp certified, they'll often be more generous with their ideas and time than you might think.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop in the chat and we can get to them before we finish up.
Rona, that's a really good question, isn't it? Like,
Right.
tips of convincing my manager the benefits of doing a sustainability course. You actually have that on the website, don't you?
We do actually, yeah. So we offer obviously courses, for company-wide training, but then there's also individual courses like the diploma, which are quite ideal for, say, like green teams or sustainability leads and stuff like that. And we actually have a section on the website all about getting reimbursed, because a lot of people who come through to do the diploma course would actually be funded by the company. So we actually have an email template which you could send to your manager to kind of convince them to let you do the course, but then also potentially get it funded as well. And then we also have some other documentation as well that I could send to you. So I might just actually pop my email into this chat.
Dude, that's a really good idea.
Just in case you want to get in touch, and I can send those bits over to you.
Very
I think
good.
there's another question in there.
Lily, yeah. So struggling to get departments on board with scope 3. I'm going to say it's sort of back to basics here. I'm afraid I don't have a magic wand to go back to the wicked analogy. But I think the key thing is start with don't start necessarily with the most painful department, right? It's like, which one is the most painful? Like anyone that you're coming to, this is an extra part of their day job that they did not envisage happening, right? Like, why do I have to give you this information? Like, I even have a client, they want to apply for the Green Start Enterprise Ireland voucher. It involves them having to do the basic carbon footprinting tool that we have here in Ireland. That in itself requires you to get your energy bills from the finance team. And we've been trying to do this for, I'm going to say at least 4 weeks. I haven't stepped in yet, but next week I am going to step in, because absolutely trying to get people to give you information that on the face of it, should be something really easy just to hand over. But it's like, often it's like, oh, if I hand this over, I didn't get approval from some. It's going back to that blocker, right? It's like reaching out to them and going, hi, me again. I'm looking for X. Is there anything I can help you to get this information for me? I know such and such in the other department. It was a little bit time consuming for them. I'm aiming to make it really quickly, really quick for you and painless. I could certainly help you get it if, you just give me X, Y, and Z approval or whatever it is. I think sometimes it's making them realize that actually it might not be that time consuming. In their heads, right? It's like this big, oh God, I have to get back to her, and I just don't have time for that. They've envisaged in their head, it's blown up to like, it's going to be 3 hours, it's got 4 days of work or whatever it is. So it's like, can you give them an example of where somebody else has given you information and it didn't take that long? I think sometimes showing people the path for like what they can do, like, this is how somebody else before you did it, that often helps, even if maybe it did take more time. Obviously, ideally it didn't, but it's an easy win solution. I would try that, but I would definitely just go after each department separately, because when you're trying to do that spray and pray approach, like it's like any old school marketing, isn't it? It's like, you think you've sent the 6 emails today, and so therefore somebody's got to reply by the end of the week. But actually, getting the buy-in, I think, from them is so important. And I see Mark there is like, yeah, what part of sustainability to try and work in? Yeah,
It's
the one
hard because it is a beast in itself. There's so many different areas you could go into.
it is. And if you're not like a regulations person, which I am, like 100% not, right? Like my skill is definitely in B Corp, because I know that very, very well, doing it for 5 years, and carbon literacy. And, it's carbon literacy is different to Institute Sustainability Studies in lots of ways, but both are compatible. And I think we've had people who've done both. Um, I think any learning that you do helps you to identify what areas you're good at. One little hot tip I would say is Ayana Johnson. Go follow her. It's Ayana Johnson. I think it's Johnsson. She does a beautiful Venn diagram. So you start with like, it's a bit like an ikigai of like climate change or climate solutions. So the first circle is like what you're good at. Then the second circle is like what work you feel needs doing. And then the last circle is so it's like yeah, what do I enjoy doing? So what work needs doing? Just thinking about the circles. Work needs doing, what am I good at? And then what do I want to do? Like what do I enjoy doing? So what are you good at, what you enjoy doing? And then in the middle is like, that's your sweet spot. If you enjoy doing it, if it's something that has an existing skill that you have, plus an area that is in demand or is a need. But go check it out. We use that in carbon literacy as well. It's a really good one for figuring out where your superpower for sustainability lies.
There, just because we've gone a bit over time. But yeah, thanks again, Sarah, for sharing your insights and your expertise. Hope everyone found the session very informative and thought-provoking as well. But just wanted to note a couple things. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people who have completed the diploma with us have had their diploma funded by the company that they work for. So around 70% of our learners. So you may have a training stipend that's available for 2026 that could assist with this. Additionally, if you're more interested in the company-wide training route, which is very on theme for today's webinar topic as well, there are actually several grants available in Ireland and the UK that your company may qualify for, that can support, getting funding for a broader training package. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. We know from experience that, the institutions offering these grants, their material on the website is not always very clear. And, you might be thinking, oh, do I qualify? Don't I qualify? We're very happy to help with any support there, and kind of break it down a bit more. So definitely do get in touch if that's something that you're interested in. On the company wide side of things, we really focus on kind of bite-sized training that's practical, but also it's bite-sized in the sense that it's quick and fast learning, because we know that professionals are very busy and they are time poor, so it's easy to fit it into your working day. And all our training as well, just to mention, is online and self-paced as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we see you at some more sessions this year as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.